Okay. Okay. So here we are. It is February 8th, 11:01 a.m. My son Gidon and I were going to try to work through the Torah reading. This week's Torah reading is Genesis 15:7 through 17:6, but we're only going to work on Genesis 15:7. We're just working on the first verse together right now. So why don't my son, I'll pray first. Yeshua, I pray that you teach us the Torah. Like, give us insight. You're the rabbi. You're Mashiach. Like, give us understanding and make that understanding lead to love. Don't let us be like the people that Yechezkel, that Ezekiel went to. That they just it tickled our ears, but we don't do anything with it. Like, how do we do differently? How do we see differently? Bless us. In Yeshua's name, amen. Okay, so my son, why don't you read verse 7 in the LEB out loud?
Okay. And he said to him, I am Yahweh who brought you out from Ur of the Chaldeans to give this land to you, to possess it.
Okay. So we want to try to generate questions. Okay. I'm going to read it in Hebrew. Vayomer elav ani Yahweh asher hotzeiticha me'or kasdim latet lecha et haaretz hazot le'rishta. So what kind of questions could we generate? How would you approach this text? How would you ask questions? Or, do you have anything that you see? This reminds me of this, and then form a question about it. You have any questions?
What is this land?
Great. That's a good question. Okay. So what we can do is we can say, all right, we know the question that we're asking. I'll put it here. Okay. So we know that we're asking about 15:7. All right. So let's do this. What is this land? What is this land?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Good question. It's Canaan.
Mm-hmm.
It's the land that Avram is currently residing in, but does not own.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So Canaan, this land. Let's think of another one. Why the similarity? Why the structural? This is my question. Why the structural similarity? Why is there structural similarity between this verse and the first commandment of the 10? I am Yahweh, who brought you out of a Gentile land,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, to inherit. You were slaves, you had nothing, and the idea of it, the implication is you do get this land as sons with Yahweh, right?
It's like Egypt.
It is like Egypt. And by the way, I think one of the answers even to the question is the reason, and you're going to see me do this, it's good practice. I'm going to try to answer my question with another question.
Mm-hmm.
So is the reason that the structural similarity between the first commandment and verse 7 here, our verse, is the reason for the structural similarity because the author of Genesis wants us to have our ears perked for the prophecy Avram's going to receive. He's going to receive prophecy of the 400 years of slavery in this reading. I don't think Mitzrayim is named in this reading. I could be wrong.
It's not.
And in a way, Mitzrayim is...
You're talking about Egypt when you say Mitzrayim.
Yeah, that's right. Egypt. Egypt isn't mentioned. I think it will be touched on, believe it or not, in this section. You know why? I'm pretty sure this section includes Hagar, the Egyptian, who is a slave of Sarah and who's mistreated and treated harshly.
Yeah.
Which is going to be, there's a reversal, right? Egypt is going to mistreat Israel as a servant harshly.
Yeah.
And peculiarly the women over seed and birth. They're going to mistreat them harshly. They're going to try to take the babies from the women and kill them.
And it's like there's a resemblance between this story of Egypt and the Israelites and how Yahweh brought down plagues and stuff.
Okay.
And how Pharaoh in a past tense reading is like, what have you done this to me? You've like cursed me.
That's
by
right.
Letting Sarah, your wife, by lying to me.
That's right.
By saying that she was your sister.
That's right. And good. Okay, so we're seeing correlations there. Or of the Chaldeans, or Kasdim. Okay, what's the significance of this? Is the significance of that they're a Gentile nation, that they're in the line of Ham, is the significance that they're associated with the land of Shinar, okay, which is associated with crappy kingdoms and Cain. And then the idea of causing you to exit. I brought you out of Ur. I brought you out of Ur. Which, this is a question. It says he brought him Me'or Kasdim, but technically to get him to Canaan, didn't he bring him out of Haran? There was an in-between place. So he was in Ur, and then, which is the Gentiles. Then he was in Haran, wandering, or in between, right? Then he was called in the land. Is that supposed to be connected to Israel leaving the Gentile nation of Egypt, wandering, and then entering Canaan? This idea brought you out in this process. הוצאתיך מאור כסדים, לתת לך את הארץ הזאת לרשתה. To give to you, this land, to give it to you in order for something, in order to possess it. In order to possess it. So, in order to possess it. What is it? To drive out. To drive out the people that are there. This phrase, lerishta, to drive it out or to take possession of it. Okay. Yeah, to take possession is the idea, to drive out. That's alluded to as well later because isn't it alluded to? Is the question. Is it alluded to later because doesn't Yahweh say the sins of the Amorites haven't reached their full?
So they haven't done they haven't done their worst.
That's right, which is that it says 4 generations. Now I don't know what is 4 generations. That's another pasuk, is another verse. But I think one of the things this is an interesting question about our verse. Is there a pattern in Yahweh's very identity? He's not called Yahweh by Avram.
Yeah.
He's called El Shaddai.
Moshe does that.
Moshe writes in Yahweh, and what that cues us in on is, he's present. He's locally present. Yahweh's there with him. You know? Okay, so he's there. He's locally present. And then he keeps covenant. That's another thing. He's there, present. He's the one who guards the covenant, the local Yahweh.
Yeah.
A question arises, is this who God always has been? Like, I am Yahweh your God who brought you out of the land or ground, out of the land, literally, Adam and Chava, Adam and Eve, in order to give you this new land. This new land.
Eden.
And the new land is Eden, right? Mm-hmm. Eden, I think, I suspect Eden could represent either, at the very least, the temple, at the deepest, the Holy of Holies, or at the most concentrated, the Ark. Because you have this phrase, lerishta, in order to take possession of it. Aren't Adam and Eve told to take possession and take dominance and control over creation?
Yeah.
Like conquer it, trample it, bring it to the place of order, right? So you have, if this idea goes as far back to Adam and Eve, this is like God's purpose for humanity. I'm calling you to myself. I'm giving you the choice to leave this other thing and come join me. Step up to a higher place with me. And he does it with Adam and Chava. He does it with Avram. He's going to do it with Yaakov, Israel. He's going to do it with the sons of Israel. He's going to do this over and over again. So interesting stuff. Do you have any other questions or thoughts about it?
I don't think so.
Okay. Let's just, for a moment, let's think of, I don't want to interrupt you if you need to say. Let's do there's a way to think foundationally to find answers, right? There's who, what, when, where, why. That is people, right? People, work, appointment or meeting times, a temple, and then love. Okay, so you could ask, who, what people? First off, here, the person, Yahweh, and then secondly, the earthly father, Avram. Right? When we ask people, we can talk about roles. Yahweh is a king, he's a master, but he's also a father. Avram is a father. So who is answered? We can, just by asking who, we can say Avram, Yahweh, a father, right? The king. And then we say what? The work, malacha. What kind of work? The work of taking possession of a land and ordering it,
Yeah.
taking possession of it, right? And then you have the idea of meeting times. When? This passage is literally going to describe the fullness of the times, the when things shift, right? It's going to be the fullness of the times in the 400 years. And we have where? The temple. Where will the temple be? It will be in the land. What's interesting is this temple isn't really going to be revealed to Avram. The temple is going to be revealed to who? Who's the first?
Moshe.
Nope. Even before him. Who's the first one to have a vision of Beit-El, house of God? Yaakov, the grandson of Avram, right? And it's going to be in the land, right? In a place that's called Luz or Lutz, and then they rename it Bethel, Beit-El, right? So it's there. It's going to be this land, alludes to that. But then we have why, which is love. Why does God bring you out of the Chaldeans? What was it like with Chaldea? What was it like when the Kasdim? Was it good? What was it like among pagans and idolaters? What was it like without people, without God, without hope, without God in the world? He brings you out for what? This touches the who question again. To be his son. To be his. Okay? To share a descendant. This is going to be a really weird thing. Yitzchak is the shared son of Avram and Yahweh.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So we have this way of asking these questions, and we can come up with foundational answers, you understand?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other questions, thoughts?
I think it's interesting because it's like Jacob kind of functions as a prophet.
Tell me how.
He sees the temple.
Yes.
And he sees it's going to... Also, it reminds me of...
this is so cool. Yeah.
What's his name? Samuel.
Yeah.
He's given over to Yahweh. He's shared by parents and he's a prophet.
Okay, that's a great reading. Now watch this. Avram. Is he about to have a vision?
Yeah.
Okay, here's what's wild about this. The next verse, we're going to do the next verse later, but just for now, 15:8. So Yahweh says this wonderful thing. He's there, he's present with Avram, and he says to Avram, I am Yahweh who brought you out from Ur the Chaldeans to give this land to you to possess it. Couldn't Avram have said, good, because you said it, now I know it. Now that you said it, I know it. But what does the next verse say? Read it.
Oh, and he said, oh Yahweh God, how shall I know that I will possess it?
So him just saying it is a different kind of knowledge. He hears it, but in Hebrew, if we just jump to verse 8, okay, Edah, Bama, in what? Edah, I will be knowing intimately. Ki irashina, that I will possess it. How do I know that? In other words, knowledge here is intimate. How do I get intimately joined? And your point is like Jacob's like a prophet. Does he get prophecy?
Yeah.
God tells him to arrange this sacrifice for what purpose? To get what? Prophecy. What does prophecy then answer? How will I intimately know it? Prophecy. Prophecy.
He gives him the answer.
Not just the answer like propositional knowledge, but intimate knowledge. He makes him undergo a vision in a deep sleep. He shows it to him. He causes him to know it intimately. This is the difference between, yeah, I know about that woman, and yeah, I know her intimately. She's my wife. I'm joined to her, right? Adam knew Eve, right? So the idea is, how do I know this thing? The answer is prophecy. Just saying I heard it doesn't mean you know it. You can deem it faithful and not really know it. Prophecy adds to your intimate knowledge of it. So for us to know it, we need prophecy, right?
Yeah.
So could you then say that Yaakov, before he laid his head down on that stone, he didn't know about the temple? But after he got that revelation, that prophecy, in a sense, he knew it, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's this weird connection between intimate knowledge and prophecy. Intimate knowledge and prophecy. What does that tell you about the trees? The tree of the knowledge of good and evil. There's some kind of link about revelation, knowing it intimately, being joined to it somehow, right? That's great. Do you have anything else?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Sweet boy.
It's a lot for...
It is a lot. It is a lot.